All right, we're back to it. We've looked at him. We've got some things figured out, so now it's time to lay in some of these details. I've noticed that his hat is not thin enough. It needs to come in some more. So we'll end up cutting that back in. And I'm just going to trim and make his hat look more like one of those hats that Uncle Sam will wear. I don't even know what those are called. I want to say a stovetop hat, but I know that's not right. But what we're going to do is bring it in a little bit more on the side. We'll do that on both sides. It'll help narrow the face down too. We've got more of a short, squat piece of wood here than we would have had. Normally on these, we would have had a longer one because that would give me room for the goatee at the bottom. But we'll make it work. I'm gonna make this guy look really good. So you can see I just trimmed that hat in a little bit more and brought it in. I've seen some of these pictures where it's straight up and down, but I like to give it just a little bit of a profile in. I think it makes it look better. We'll eventually come in and trim this up a little bit. What we want to do is thin this face down. So all I'm going to do is from right about where that sideburn is, just kind of narrow that face down. We're going to give him more of a hollowed cheek look, like that, rather than the fat look like this. I like that look better, and it'll work better for when we do the dental mound. Those of you that don't know what the dental mound is, the mound where your teeth are, and it's actually rounded. It is rounded. The mandibles, the upper and lower mandibles, the jaws are round, more or less. They're not perfectly round, but they look round enough. And so we'll do that here on this side as well. And so what we're doing is making his cheeks look more hollow. We'll come back in and trim that up a little bit. And I also have to take into consideration that my hole is a little bit offset. So if we can make it this side a little bit more, we'll fake it. Essentially what we'll do. Okay. We want to take off the wood in front of and on each side of that goatee. And so we'll just trim down that, taking into consideration that the dental mound is round, so we can't square it off. But we're just going to outline that goatee. I've got a cut right above that. I'm going to trim that down because his dental mound is pretty round, but it's pretty protruding as well as we look at it now. Okay, so see how his goatee sticks out a little bit more? Let's round that up to the nose because we've got way too much sticking out here. So we're just going to trim that with my fishtail gouge. Again, if you don't have a fishtail gouge, borrow one from somebody. See if you like it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. But if you do, I'm not here to sell you tools. I'm not here to tell you which brand to buy. If you decide to buy tools, if you want, I'll tell you which ones I like. Get a hold of me, Facebook or email or whatever. But if you like, I'll tell you what I like. See how thin that face is getting now? We're starting to get that where we wanted to go. We'll draw his mouth in. Get a little bit of a crooked dip at the bottom at the mouth. What we'll do is to make this stick out a little bit more, we'll trim the bottom rounded a little bit more to stick that goatee out. I'll take a knife and outline it just a little bit more. Just go in a little bit. Take that off and stick that out a little bit more. It doesn't have to look like perfect, because what you're doing is you are giving the impression. You're giving the impression of a goatee that's really there. Okay? Like I said, I don't work in one area. I'm constantly working around, and so I'm going to trim the bottom of that face up just a little bit more because I want him to be more rounded at the bottom like that, not like this. So what I'll do is I'll just trim that out. Because we're going to take these carved lines off the bottom here as well. Cut lines, sorry, not carved lines, cut lines. those things that you get when you put it on your bandsaw. I'm going to make an indentation here, trim up to it, make an indentation right there on both sides of that goatee. And we've made it stick out a little bit. Not perfect, but it works. Nose is real hoggish, so again, I'm going to lay that knife on the side and make that nose more of a triangle. That looks a little bit better, except for that crook right there. I don't necessarily know that I really like that crook, or hook rather, so we'll just thin that out a little bit more. Okay, we'll play around with the eye sockets here in a little bit. But right now, he's starting to look pretty good. Trim some of these hard edges off here around the bottom of the eye socket and right above where that smile line is. We're just trying to make him look more presentable. We don't want it to look like some kind of roughneck or something, but we'll just trim him up there a little bit. Okay. Let's work on those ears. Usually what I do on the ears, I go back and I trim the back and make them like they're angled, because I don't want the ears sticking straight out. Okay? We'll do that to both sides. We'll just trim the ear, being careful not to smack into that bottom of that hat. And all we've done is just trimmed off those ears. Just made them a little bit angled. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my knife right in here, and I'm going to carve out and come back to it. So I want to go out like that and come back to it. So I'm just going to stick that knife right in there, and I'm just creating a profile for that ear. Can you see that? Maybe not so much. I've taken out that wood right there. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to trim that wood, making sure where the tip of my knife is at all times. I'm going to take that piece of wood off. See how it looks like the ear now has a profile? I don't like it as much as I like some of the other ones, so I'm going to take a little bit more off. In fact, I'm going to go back and do that one more time. See how that ear is starting to look rounded? Okay. I'm going to angle that back ear in. And then I'm going to take off just a little bit to give it some profile. And then at the bottom, instead of being square, I come in at an angle. And it don't look like a real ear, but it's close enough. Ain't nobody going to look at that and say, hey, look, that's a weird looking ear. Everybody's going to think, wow, that's cool. Okay. We're going to outline the bottom of that and the side of that sideburn. Take off that little chip right there. Take off that little slice right there. Come on. That helped narrow the face down a little bit more too. Go back down to the dental mound, or the cheek side, cut that out. Trim a little bit more underneath that ear. I'm just adding more little details that we want on it. Okay. We'll do the same thing over here. Flip that over. We'll come back down to it and trim that face up a little bit more. The bottom, we'll take that little bit of wood out right there. See how thin that got his face? Now if we come right under that smile line right there, and bring that down just a little bit more, start to make his face look a little bit rounder. And it's helping us with this goatee that we're going to put on him. Okay. I'm going to outline that goatee at the bottom. It's going to give it a cut at the bottom of the head, and then a V cut out of there too. Now his goatee is separated out. We'll trim that mouth mound a little bit more, so it's not quite so protruding, and it'll give us an opportunity to stick that goatee out just a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to extend those smile lines down a little bit longer, so I've taken some of that stuff out on both sides. That line right there I don't like, so I'm going to trim that off. Oh, there we go. Okay, draw our mouth back in. And a little dip at the end. I'll show you real quick how we do that. Let's take the pointed knife, stick it right in there, go straight across and make a stop cut. Make a stop cut. When you come in and make that little downturn to the mouth, just stick that knife in, just like that. And then we'll take off that little triangle right there. And we'll take off that little triangle right here. We'll do it over here on the same side, or the other side. Take off that triangle right there. Take off that triangle right there. Got his mouth going on. We'll cut in his upper lip by just taking out a sliver there in 2 or 3 cuts. And there's his upper lip. We'll do the same thing to the bottom lip. We'll cut up. And there's his mouth. We'll trim that down a little bit to the goatee and a little bit there to the goatee. We'll unsquare the goatee because it's pretty square. The way we've got it cut in there, because we haven't added any details to it. And I believe he's starting to look like Uncle Sam. At least my version of him. We'll stop right there and pick it up on the next video. Talk to you later.